8 times in a row. Not once, not twice, 8 times. And what makes this even more staggering? There were thousands of world-class dancers in this competition. There were massive names from the global entertainment industry. There were new generation idols claimed to have fresher techniques, more modern styles, more viral presence on social media. But the result stayed the same. One name, one person, always him. But this isn't about an ordinary fan war. This isn't about ARMY casually voting through the night while staying up late. There's something deeper than that. There's a reason why even people who are not ARMY, even people who previously said, that's probably just because the fan base is loud, are now silent and can't argue back. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this title is not just an empty trophy. But hold on, because there's one detail behind this 2026 victory that almost nobody noticed. And if you skip this video right now, you'll miss the most important part. Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. If you're the type of ARMY who loves deep analysis, who isn't satisfied just reading headlines, who's always curious about the story behind the story, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because content like this will keep coming for you. Today, we're covering something that's been all over the global ARMY timeline for the past few days. But we're not just going to celebrate. We're going to break it down, analyze it, and find out why this moment is so much bigger than what it looks like on the surface. Let's get into it. For those of you who are new here or may not have been following the updates, let's build the context first. GOT7 Bts and Kooky are two prestigious global voting platforms in the world of K-entertainment. They don't rely on just one fandom community, they open voting to users from all over the world, from Southeast Asia, Latin America, Europe to Africa. Their system is designed to prevent mass manipulation, with strict account verification and limits to votes per user. That means this is not a competition you can win by simply flooding it with fake accounts. The Dance King category is one of the most competitive categories on these platforms. Every year, the names nominated aren't random. They are professionally recognized dancers with international track records who went viral for their technical skill. And this year, 2026, for the 8th consecutive time, the winner announced was Park Jimin BTS. But why is this such a big news? Isn't this something that could already be predicted? That's exactly where the real question lies. Because when something happens 8 times in a row, there are only 2 possibilities. Either the system is unfair, or this person is genuinely extraordinary. And we're gonna find out which is true. The voting period for the Dance King 2026 category on GOT7 Bts and Kooky was open for roughly 3 weeks. This year's nominations were incredibly tight. More than 20 candidates made the list, including rising 4th-generation K-pop names, several international solo dancers, and a number of performers from the American and European entertainment industries. In the first week, Jimin was already at the top. But what was interesting was that in the second week, several other candidates started chasing aggressively. Their fandoms were well organized, their voting campaigns were massive, and the gap began to close. And then something happened. Not a sudden surge from ARMY, not vote spamming, but something far more organic, something that came from outside the BTS community itself. Several non-fandom accounts, several content creators with no affiliation to ARMY started posting long threads about Jimin, about his dance technique, about the dedication behind his training, about how he built his identity as a dancer over more than a decade. And those threads went viral. People who were previously neutral started casting their votes, not because of fandom pressure, but because they were genuinely in awe after learning who Park Jimin really is. That is what sets the 2026 victory apart from every year before it. When the official results were announced, the global timeline exploded, but not just from ARMY. What was fascinating was the reaction from the dance community itself. Several professional choreographers who normally don't get involved in K-pop fandom affairs weighed in publicly. One choreographer based in Los Angeles wrote a detailed post on Platform X about how Jimin is one of the rare idols who truly lives inside the choreography, not just executing movements, but telling a story through his body. Within the ARMY community itself, the reaction was a mix of emotion and pride. Many people reshared old clips, Jimin's Mama performances from years past, his solo stages, even training footage he had shared himself on social media. All of it became a kind of collective archive, proving this journey has been long and it has never been easy. But one reaction was quoted and shared more than any other. A short video circulated on TikTok, featuring someone claiming to be a dance instructor from South Korea, not affiliated with Big Hit or HYBE, speaking about how Jimin evolved his dance style from something originally very academic and technical, shaped by art school training, into something far more personal, more expressive, more Jimming. That video was watched millions of times within hours, and that was only what was visible on the surface. Here's the part that rarely gets talked about, and this is what makes this moment far more layered than just winning a vote. If you pay close attention to Jimin's journey as a dancer, there's one pattern that has been consistent throughout his career. He always evolves at the most unexpected moments. In the early days of BTS's debut, Jimin was known as the most technically precise dancer in the group, a result of the intensive contemporary dance training he undertook before entering Big Hit. His movements were clean, accurate, and incredibly disciplined, but some observers noted that back then he appeared too perfect, like a machine that wasn't allowed to make mistakes. Then, slowly, something changed. Many dance analysts have noted that the turning point for Jimin as a dancer didn't happen on a big stage, didn't happen at an award show, but in a small, mostly overlooked performance that you can still find on YouTube if you know where to look. In that moment, for the first time, Jimin appeared to let go of something. His movements were still precise, but there was warmth in them, there was vulnerability, there was a human being. And that was the moment that changed everything. From that point forward, Jimin no longer danced to look perfect. He danced to say something, and audiences, whoever they were, from whatever background, could feel it. That's not something technique alone can measure. That's what made dance instructors outside the K-pop ecosystem finally acknowledge this isn't about popularity, this is about artistry. But wait. There's one thing that almost nobody has talked about in the middle of all this celebration. And this is actually the most interesting part. Behind all the attention on Jimin, there's a quiet detail circulating among the deepest layers of the ARMY community. A detail that if you weren't active in certain forums or Discord servers, you probably wouldn't know. During the voting period, there was a silent movement among international ARMY, not to campaign for mass voting, but to do the opposite. They actively spread educational content about Jimin as an artist, dance analysis videos, old interviews that rarely got views anymore, documentation of his creative process. The strategy wasn't vote as much as possible, it was show why he deserves it. And the result? Many people came to learn and ended up voting not because of pressure, but because they genuinely believed in it. That's what made this victory feel different. And what's even more surprising is that some of the most widely shared educational content wasn't created by ARMY at all. Some of it was made by creators from the dance and performance art community who had no connection to the K-pop world whatsoever. That means Jimin's name has gone beyond the boundaries of fandom. If we're going to be honest, there's another dimension to this story worth discussing: Jimin's journey as an individual, not just as an idol. Those who have followed BTS from the beginning know how difficult Jimin's path has been. He wasn't someone who immediately shone from day one. He is someone who repeatedly doubted himself openly, something few other idols do because it risks breaking the perfect image they're expected to maintain. But that vulnerability is precisely what makes him extraordinary. In an interview from quite a few years back, Jimin spoke about how he often cried after performances, not of happiness, but because he felt he wasn't good enough yet. To some people, that might sound like unhealthy perfectionism, but to those who understand the context, it's a portrait of someone who genuinely cared, someone who could never settle for good enough. And that pattern has been consistent year after year. If you watch how Jimin approaches new choreography, there's something striking. He always asks why a movement exists, not just how to execute it. Some choreographers who have worked with him have mentioned that he's one of the most question-asking performers they've encountered, not because he doesn't understand, but because he wants to truly comprehend before he executes. That's what creates the difference between a well-trained dancer and an artist who genuinely lives inside their art. And if we trace the change year over year, from Jimin who debuted in 2013 to the Jimin we see now in 2026, there is a very clear narrative. This is someone who never stopped growing, who became more mature, more bold, more fully himself with every passing year. 8 times in a row is not a coincidence. 8 times in a row is the reflection of a decade of relentless work that never stopped.
And now we've reached the most important part. Beyond the numbers, beyond voting statistics, beyond all the technical analysis, there's one question that's actually bigger than all of it. What does this mean to Jimin himself? Because if you've been following his journey, you know that Jimin isn't the type of person who celebrates awards in the conventional way. He never responds with, "I knew I was the best." He always redirects his gratitude back to ARMY, to the people who saw him, who supported him, who were still there even when he repeatedly felt unworthy. There's a moment fairly well known among ARMY from several years ago where Jimin spoke with a trembling voice about his fear of performing. Not a fear of failing technically, but a fear of not being able to convey what was in his heart. A fear that the audience wouldn't feel what he was trying to tell them. That's not the fear of an ordinary performer. That is the fear of a true artist. And now, in 2026, with 8 Dance King titles in his hands, not because he's no longer afraid, but because he learned to dance in spite of that fear. This victory isn't just about voting. This is a confirmation. A confirmation that all those years of exhausting training were not wasted, that all the long nights he spent repeating the same movement over and over again were worth it, that the choice he made to never stop growing, to never stop asking, to never stop chasing the best version of himself was the right choice. An ARMY all over the world, from those who've been here since 2013 to those who just joined yesterday, share in that pride. Not because their idol won, but because the person they believed in, the person they supported, the person they worried about in his darkest moments turned out to be okay. Turned out to be more than okay. He's shining. So, after everything we've walked through today, this 8th victory, the different ARMY strategy, the artistic dimension that often gets overlooked, and the long journey behind a single title, here's one question for you. In your opinion, what most makes Jimin deserving of the title of World's Dance King, not just in 2026, but overall? Is it his technique, his expression, his work ethic? Or is there something else you see that you've never quite been able to put into words? Write your answer in the comments. Seriously, I want to know your perspective, because the best community is one that shares with each other, not just celebrates together. And if you felt this video gave you something more than just information, if there was a part of Jimin's story that genuinely touched something inside you, share this video, not for the view count, but because this story deserves to be heard by more people. That's all for today. Thank you for watching until the very end. You are exactly the kind of viewer that makes content like this feel worth creating. See you in the next one. Purple you.